Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi everybody, my name is Debbie Davis and I'm an alcoholic. And I'm really glad to be here this weekend at the Spring Fling, and I want to thank Ed and the committee and anyone else involved with inviting me. Thank you very much. I lived in Long Beach for almost 14 years, and I never found myself at the Spring Fling. I just was either else out of town somewhere or something else was going on. And I know you always have it Easter weekend, and I was thinking Easter weekend has been memorable to me. I met my husband on an Easter weekend in 2000, and we got married. It happenstantially was Easter weekend in 2001, and last year, 2003, we were, as a couple of AA geeks in Akron, visiting Akron. Nobody but AAs visit Akron, on vacation on purpose, You can always tell whether or not they're in AA when you say you went on vacation to Akron. Either they go, really? Or they, why? But I got to remember, and of course I also met my first husband on an Easter weekend a long time ago. So, there's all kinds of memories for Easter weekend for me. But I'm here to share my story with you, my experience, strength, and hope here in this journey of Alcoholics Anonymous and sobriety. And if you are new here, I want to share with you the three things that are most important to me. These are the three things in an active state, still, not formerly, but continuously in an active state in my life that have made it possible for me to put a period of time together of sobriety and to live comfortably most of the time. And when I'm not comfortable, it's because I'm somehow trying to get back in the show and trying to run it. Want something I think I want, or afraid I'm going to lose something I think I have. And so, these are the three things that have made the difference in my life. And that's a sobriety date, a home group, and a sponsor. My current sobriety date is February the 8th, 1976, which means I've been sober over 28 years, a day at a time. And I do it a day at a time. I plan for the tomorrows of my life, but this is the day that makes the difference. The longer I'm sober, the more that one day at a time means to me, and that this is the day that counts. I say my current sobriety day because I had a few before that. But this will stay my last one as long as I continue to do what I believe to be the daily maintenance. And some of those things are starting and closing my day with prayer. And I choose to do it on my knees because I need that conscientious physical reminder of who is in charge and that it's not me. And then I chat with God throughout the day. I every morning ask Him to please help me stay sober today, and I thank Him at night for that sobriety. I answer my phone without screening my calls. To me, that's pretty spiritual. I try to be of service wherever I'm asked to be of service, however I'm asked to be of service. When I ask God, show me how you want me to serve you today, I can't pick and choose. Oh, this is the fun stuff, or this isn't too fun, so I think I'll do this or do that. No. You taught me about, you just do it. Part of my day is also trying to be a decent human being out there, trying to treat people with kindness and love, and try to live that way in an honest way of life in all of my affairs. Those are just some of the things in addition to not taking that first drink or anything else that affects me from the neck up. For me, my sobriety is very black and white. That means for me, I don't drink near beer, okay? I don't smoke near pot. I don't take health store speed. I don't care what cute name you call it. I just don't go there because I'm of an alcoholic that drinks for the effect. Dr. Silkworth put it perfectly, describing me that men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. And that is why I drank. And if I'm going to take something or drink something that is to mentally give me that illusion again, and it won't, I will go where it's going to produce that. And I don't want to go there. That's not where I want to go. I'm going to move this over a little bit here. And so, but I also know for myself that physical sobriety is only where it begins for me. It's the launching pad. It needs to be there 24/7. But I won't keep that unless I take actions, and those were in the steps. Because I had the impression by people who were non-alcoholics, by them asking me questions like, why do you always have to get drunk? Or why can't you have a couple like we do? That they gave me a very strong impression that if you stop the alcohol and drugs, your life will just get wonderful automatically. And due to an environment I was in, a treatment center, I was without alcohol and drugs for a period of time. And I drank again because I had not been drinking, because I hadn't done any actions but physically not drink. And for me, that is a short, sustaining time. I don't know what else to do to get comfortable. And I'm not willing nor interested to do any work. So I go to the familiar. I go back to drinking. And so for me, this is the launching pad. The physical sobriety needs to be there, but is that launching pad to a way of life. I thought it was all about just not drinking, but to me it has given me and shown me a way of life beyond my dreams. And so that is where I begin, that physical sobriety date. So if you are new and you don't have a sobriety date, I really encourage you to get one, because Alcoholics Anonymous makes so much more sense when you're sober. Just a suggestion. I believe in a home group very strongly. I've lived in 4 different areas of the country. And it's so funny, our speaker tomorrow night, he and I at one time had the same home group in Atlanta, but I have lived in 4 different areas of the country, and that's the only reason to this moment that I have ever changed home groups, is because I've literally left the state or the area. But I also realized when I moved to Northern California, I've also had 4 different last names, too, as happenstance would be. And I got sober in Minneapolis, and my home group was the 12 and 12 group there, and my last name was my original maiden name, which was Fegan. And so anybody who knows me by that name has known me a very long time. And I was there almost 4 years, and then I moved to Atlanta, and I would be a member of the Skyland group for almost 7 years there. I legally changed my name due to a profession I was getting interested in, and to Richards, and so I was Debbie Richards there. I got married in late '86, and I moved to Southern California. I lived in Long Beach, and I was a member of the Bellflower Big Book group for just shy of 14 years, and my last name there was Harris. I did move to because I'd gotten married. And then in August of 2000, I moved to Northern California. I live in Concord now. My home group is in Dublin, called Primary Purpose. And I moved there because of an engagement and marriage, and my last name is now Davis. And let me just tell you, it's going to be that way for a long, long time. And but my sobriety date and first name have remained the same for a number of years now. But a home group has been so phenomenal for me, because it has taught me how to live out there on those city streets. You see, you taught me about courtesy in a home group. You taught me about thinking about somebody besides myself. You taught me about how to have a commitment and not get acknowledgement for it, to just be anonymously of service. How to give instead of be the taker I knew how to be. You taught me here by your example how to be a better daughter. I'm an only child. And when I took my first drink, it was like I emotionally the wall came down. It wasn't anything conscious. It's just the way it was. And my internal emotional independence began at that moment. And I no longer needed my parents in my mind, wanted them around in my life. And I began, I just shut down. I got sober. I made my amends. And yet we all lived in different states, and I liked it like that. There was no guilt on when are you coming to visit, are you coming for dinner this week. There wasn't any, hey, let's all get together for Christmas. There wasn't any of those kinds of obligations that I didn't want to have. But I called them twice a year to make sure we all had the same phone number, everybody's still live. Okay, that's great, that's fine. And after 14 years of sobriety, I thought, I would like to develop a relationship with this family. I am their only daughter. I think it would be important that I do that. And it wasn't about what was going to be coming this way. What was important was my commitment that I made to them. And so I called them on the first Sunday in January of 1991. And I said, I'm going to call you the first Sunday of every month. And I have not missed that commitment in over 13 years. And I say that because you taught me to do what you say you're going to do. And that's what I have done. The result has been that, there is a relationship that developed a long time ago. That I call them and they look forward to that call. So you taught me how to be a better daughter. You taught me how to be a better employee, that the company came first and my little whims and whines, that was what was important, is to be on the team and not a separate individual player on it. You taught me how to place principles before personalities. Gosh, that's hard. It's tough when you're in your home group meeting and it's you and your soon-to-be ex-he and the brand-new she. I'll tell you, those are some awkward moments, And, but you taught me you don't run anywhere. And if I've had ever one question commonly asked of me over and over and over was, how do you stay in the room? And because you told me I could do that and that I needed to do that one meeting at a time, I could pass that experience on to somebody else. Because what it made me do was work that room even harder. If I knew what they were doing, I wasn't doing my job. Because when I walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I only have one job. And that's not to look for the new boyfriend or the new job or the new place to live or the new car. It's to share my message with another woman alcoholic, to let them know that I understand and that we offer you a different way of life. My personal problems get left in the car. I just have one job here as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so you taught me so many valuable things that I can take in every situation in my life. But a home group has done that. Staying, getting to know them, and getting them to know you. And the third thing is a sponsor. I've had 3 sponsors. In fact, again, John and I at one time had the same sponsor, Joe in Atlanta. And my first sponsor was Marguerite in Minneapolis, and when I moved to Southern California, I got a woman named Millie G, and she is still my sponsor after 17 years. I kept her when I moved to Northern California. And without a sponsor today, my life would take a different track, because this is the one person who knows me good, bad, and the ugly. The beauty marks and the warts. I need someone who does not know any, or who I have no secrets from, who knows everything about me. Because you see, I start keeping secrets and I start moving backwards. And I don't want to revert to that old way of life or old way of thinking or old way of feeling. I can do that very easily, but I need to be up front on a regular basis with my sponsor and follow her direction. She may be small in stature, but she packs a punch with what she shares. And she is a very powerful force in my life. She is not God, and I don't make her God. But I respect her to the ultimate degree. She and the other people I've had as my sponsors all have the same thing in common. We have nothing in our drinking events history in common other than the fact that we're alcoholics. I mean, our lives couldn't be more on opposite scales. When I picked a sponsor, I didn't need somebody to one-up someone's story with, okay? I wanted somebody who I want to aspire to be like. I want to be like them when I grow up. And those are the people that live this in all of their affairs. And those are the people that I have followed and continue to follow. And so that is how I have picked a sponsor. So if you are new here, or you're sitting here with some time under your belt and you're restless, irritable, and discontent, and you don't have one or all 3 of these things in your life in an active state, a sobriety date that's honest, a home group that you're an active member in, or a sponsor that you actively work with, I really encourage you to activate and get those in your life. Because if you are an alcoholic and you don't like the way you're living, we have a solution. We have an option for you. We have a different way to live that we'll share with you. And we welcome you on this journey. Because I've been on that path. I've been restless, irritable, and discontent in sobriety. And I had those things. But temporarily, they were not in an active, regular state. I was out there doing self-will, and it was running riot, I'll tell you. But when this is a way of life beyond my belief. And I welcome you to this journey as we go, as we trudge this road of happy destiny, so to speak. Well, I began my journey to Alcoholics Anonymous in April of 1970. It was Friday the 13th. I have loved Fridays ever since. Drunk or sober, they are my favorite day of the week. And I was 12 years old, and I'd been invited earlier in the week by the cool kids in school. And I'd heard them talk about drinking, and I don't know where I got it, but I made a very conscious decision: I'm going to get drunk tonight. Because that seemed to be the most assured way that I would be accepted by these kids. This was my one and only shot to be accepted by them. And when I arrived at that party, not for a minute did I think about that something what might happen. I'd never thought about the way my parents drank. My parents are people we call social drinkers. I'd never heard that word until I got into Alcoholics Anonymous. I've never seen a problem drinker. I am the only identified alcoholic on both sides of the family. There is a suspect uncle, okay, but that's as close as we got to any kind of family tree going on. And it's still out for jury. You know. But I am a confirmed alcoholic representing both sides of the family here today. And when I began to drink that night, I didn't know it would set patterns. I would think about those things. I just know that I can't wait to start. And they're passing around this bottle in a brown bag, and I don't know what's in it, but I know what's in it. Alcohol. And it got to me, and because I wanted to fit in with that group, you know, and again, I didn't take this first drink because I had a horrible home life, because I was running away from an awful world. To this moment, I had never seen violence and argument, abuse of any kind of inner nature in my head. I'd never felt like I felt dropped off from another planet. These were just some kids that were the cool kids in school, and I wanted to hang out with them. Pure and simple. There was the only reason I wanted to be there. And when it got to me, I did what they did, which was they took a pull off of that bottle and they gave it to the next guy. And for me, as that happened, it went down my throat and just ripped it out. You know how that first drink does. You're not used to it. It just rips out your throat. And I don't remember thinking, ooh, ick. I remember thinking, all right, you know, something's going to happen here. And when it did, it went down and it hit that bottom, and it just did a magic that nothing had done before. The only analogy for me is kind of like, it was like hot lava. It was warm, and it was thick, and it flowed, and it moved in, and it filled quietly every hole in my gut, and I didn't know I had any. And no big things happened except my shoulders relaxed. And I've got this glow 2 inches behind my belly button, and I'm thinking, you know what? Oatmeal has never done this for me, you know. I don't know what's in there, but I want some more. And when it came back around, because I took the second drink because I wanted the same effect produced by the first drink. And I did exactly the same action. I took a pull off that bottle. I gave it to the next guy, ripped my throat out, went down, did that magic. But if there's some kind of a line that we do cross, I didn't know that I had just crossed that line between drink number 1 and drink number 2, that I just had my only social drink that I will ever have. I didn't know that. It was a big moment there. I missed it. And that second drink launched me into a world that I loved. I didn't realize it, but what happened in words is that when it went down the second time up here, I was still feeling anxious, and I hope these kids accept me, but the second time it went down, that anxiety up here turned into arrogance down here. And I internally sort of threw my shoulders back, looked around that room, and I thought, hey, aren't they glad I'm here, you know? I know about that almost instant change of perception. And I was about 3 months sober when I heard those words, and I knew exactly what that meant. Now, you know, you can ask my parents that, and they have no clue what that means. But I knew exactly what that meant, and I knew exactly when it happened the first time. Was that second drink. That almost instant change of perception. Everything looked different, yet nothing had changed. Well, that night for me, I didn't know it. But I love this new world. And I no longer needed your approval. Drink number 1 was, please accept me. Drink number 2 from then on was, who needs you? I would drink as much as I could, as fast as I could, whenever I could. I had blackouts that night. I passed out that night. I had my first case of the dry heaves. None of those things seemed like a consequence or a negative reaction. They just something that happened. But I couldn't wait to drink again. Now, I don't know if I was born an alcoholic. I don't come from a line of alcoholism. So I have no clue. It doesn't matter. I look at my behavior. I didn't do the things after that first drink. Before the first drink, I didn't lie, steal, and cheat. I didn't abuse and hurt people. I did not care. All those things just became natural things that I did after that first drink, starting with the very next day. That Friday morning when I woke up, I had good things on my mind that started. It was important to me to obey the rules and stay out of trouble and be a good kid. And you say, I don't like negative attention. I never have. I've never been rebellious or anything. I don't relate to that at all. I've always wanted to do the right thing. And then the next thing on that list was to get drunk tonight. And I did that Friday night and Saturday morning. All those good ideals that I woke up with Friday morning went to spot number 2. And getting drunk and who's going to buy it and what should I get and where should I drink it and how am I going to get the money was spot number 1, and it would be for the next 6 years. That's what I woke up with every day. It became as natural a part of me as breathing. And that's why the transition was so transparent. It felt like I'd been doing this for a long time. And I didn't see anything odd or unusual about it. There was no gradualness. It was just, everybody must feel like this when they take that drink. And I didn't know until I got to you that that is not the case. And so that Saturday night, so for Friday night, I activated when I took that first drink the mental obsession. I activated when I took the first drink the physical craving. I don't know that when I take a drink, I take a drunk. I always just looked at it as I drink because I want to get drunk. And that was the original intent. Even though I'd never seen anybody drunk, that was my plan to do, was to get drunk. But what happened is that I would always drink and get drunk. I never even wanted to drink and have a couple. I always wanted to drink to be drunk. But I knew in the end I don't really have a choice of having a couple anyway. Well, so what? And you just rationalize all that away. And so my drinking began with earnest and with a gusto. And at 12 years old, I'm pretty much limited to weekends and at every additional opportunity I can create. And a year later, I'm 13 years old, and the way I drink is I drink whiskey out of a bottle with a beer chaser. I've never been interested with drinks with fruit and umbrellas and ice and foo-foo and stuff in them. I want to get downtown right now. And whiskey happened to be the thing that I liked with a beer chaser. Well, I black out too quickly, and I don't want to be sleeping through life. I want to be right in the middle of what's going on. And so I find things to enhance my alcohol. And I find things like speed and acid will help you. And they do. I mean, you'll get there quickly and in color, you know. It was just fabulous. It just was a natural additive. And again, I didn't think anything odd or unusual about that at all. And the more the better. It just allowed me to drink longer, which was the whole point of any evening, wasn't it? So I began that course in the last year and a half of my daily drinking. I'm 16 and 17 years old, and I'm drinking on a daily basis, and my diet is whiskey and acid, and I don't think anything odd or unusual about that at all. It's amazing how many lives I can live in one day. You know, I can try and show up for a little while at school, and I can be the pom-pom girl on the dance team, and then I go to work for the city judge in the afternoon every now and then when I'm able to do that. And then that night I'm ripping and roaring away. And it was amazing how many hats and lives I tried to live in one day. And it just all seemed doable as far as I was seeing it, but it wasn't very doable at all. 6 weeks before I'm supposed to graduate from my senior year of high school, I'm expelled for the third and final time of my school year. Once again, always because of my drinking problem. And in 1975, nice girls don't get thrown out of their small town high schools because of their drinking problem, generally. But I was, and I could have cared less. It had absolutely no negative effect on me. My father, however, was a little more concerned about my welfare and education than I was. And he did not know what to do. He had tried all human power to relieve me of my alcoholism. And if human power could do that, I wouldn't have needed you. But you see, it's more bigger than us. It is a malady that only that spiritual power, only a power greater than myself, has the power to make that change within me when I surrender, and not a minute before that. And so he sought professional advice. They suggested, well, he still had legal custody to commit me, and when I showed up 2 weeks later looking for money once again, they had a surprise for me. And I was on a Friday night escorted to a treatment center in Grand Forks, North Dakota, to be there for a total of 7 weeks. I'm going to be introduced to you for the very first time. I've never heard of the words Alcoholics Anonymous or the disease of alcoholism or sobriety. I've realized why. I mean, because y'all don't drink here. I mean, why would I seek out a non-drinking solution for a non-drinking problem? You know, I don't have a problem with drinking. But apparently everybody seems to think I do, and so because I'm committed here, I'll just go ahead and just get this thing done. I'll try to do it right so that I can just kind of quietly get out of the radar and back to doing what I want to do, which is drink all day. And that was my idea. On Friday nights, we would be taken to outside meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. And because I'm not an alcoholic and I don't want to catch this disease, I would sit in the back of the room. And as a friend of ours up north says, behind the paint. I totally understand that. That's exactly where I want to be, is behind the paint. Don't see me, don't talk to me, I don't want to be here, and no, I don't want what you have, because y'all don't drink, and I'm not interested in not drinking for the rest of my life. And that's how I heard it, that's how I saw you. And while I would sit in the back of the room, of course they would suggest to me, find the similarities. Well, I can't. I don't want to find the similarities. If you find them, then you might be one. So I have to find the differences. And I sat in the back of that room, and every now and then I would hear what you were saying. But I would rationalize it away. When I heard you say things like, I lost my family because of drinking, my mind would say, do you know how lucky you are? I want to lose my family. They are a constant source of irritation. They are constantly talking about my drinking. That's up here, and when I get real honest, 2 inches behind that belly button, I knew it had been necessary for me to leave their home because they no longer had a safe place to come home to. When I read in our big book about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde personality that we have, I knew exactly what that was. But you see, I'm a little bit in the reverse. I'm the Mr. Hyde, the meaner one, the restless one, when I'm not drinking. And I take a potion called whiskey, and I become the Dr. Jekyll, the nice one. And so I even knew I had very much the distinct change in personality. Even though I couldn't have put it in words, I knew there was just an emergence of life when I took a drink. And that's what's so baffling when they say, drinking is your problem. How do you tell them? No, it's not. It's the solution. They just don't get it because they don't live inside of this. And so then I heard you say things like, I totaled out cars. You know, I have never totaled out a car officially, okay? You know how we get, if it wasn't the same make, model, and color, it doesn't apply sometimes. But in my case, it was really that because I had a little drunk car that arrived to Alcoholics Anonymous, the kind that when you buy them, they start off square, okay? And they get kind of, you know, I'm a drunk that drives, and it gets rounded out, and things are missing and falling off, and in addition to my case, the window had been shot out of it, and my gas cap was a mitten I had stuck in there, you know? Because you're just busy. You don't have time for details, and if it runs, we go. And so that was my car. But no, I've never totaled out a car officially was my call. And we talked about losing jobs. And it took a while for the fog on that one to lift because I realized I always had a little job going on because I was too stupid to know how to support myself any other way. And I always had a legitimate little job going on. And But okay, well, maybe I have lost a few of them, and maybe I did quit just in the nick of time. But I realized when things started clearing up, I had acquired the last year this bad habit. I guess I was trying to be responsible, but I would quit in blackouts, okay? Well, I guess I meant, it's just the problem is I never remembered I quit, and so I'd go to work the next day, and we're all surprised why I'm there because I just quit the day before. I don't remember it. It's just awkward. Those are just really awkward times. And so those are the kinds of things that I would rationalize why my case was different in my own way that I could identify. And the other thing was that there was, that I heard you talk about things that I couldn't rationalize away, and you talked about all those broken promises. And I remember sitting in the back of that room, how did they know about those? It was like you uncovered something I had tried to hide, or that I came to be aware of that I had not been able to keep a promise since I was 12 years old because it always included not drinking. And I could not do that for 2 weeks at a time. I could go almost 2 weeks until that second Friday came around. And I didn't understand that, but I understand today. It's because I am powerless over alcohol. There gets to that point where there is just no other option than to drink. Everything else is faded out. First, it's very loud and noisy, and then it all goes quiet. And there is only one option. There's only one thing you can see, and it doesn't matter what you had said you were going to do or where you were going to be. It totally vanishes from my mind. And the other thing, there was a woman I heard talk about trying to scrub away the smell. That got my attention. Because for the last year I've had this funny odor and I don't know what it is. And she said that it was booze coming through her pores. And she's an alcoholic and she doesn't drink anymore. And all I could think of was, I know that she knows what the smell smells like. And that if I'm not careful, I might be one of those people. Well, I left that treatment center and went to an all-women's halfway house. They thought that'd be a good idea because I don't like women. So they sent me to an all-women's halfway house to live with 40 of them. It did not cure me of that at that time. Women would become my great allies, of course, in sobriety. But at the time, that was not of interest to me. And I went there and I did the rules. I did not drink, I didn't take any drugs, and I went to one Alcoholics Anonymous meeting a month. That was the minimum. You're not going to get 2 meetings a month out of me. I will go to the one. And of course, I arrived when it started. I left when it was over. I'm not interested in getting to know any of you. Why would I bother and invest any time here? Because I'm not going to be here anyway. I'm just passing through. I'm just a visitor here. After 7 months of this is why I know the bare minimum for me does not work. By doing the bare minimum, I came to Northern California to visit my mother for a 2.5-week holiday. The first week I'm out here hanging around with the people I used to drink with. Second week and a half I'm drunk and loaded with them. No surprise. Not even to me. But what I did is I tried to blame it on California booze and drugs. That was the problem. If only I'd been with my old friends and my old playmates and my old playgrounds, it'd be different. But I'd been to too many meetings. There's a line in the 12 and 12 in step 1 when it talks about when one alcoholic tells another about the nature of his malady, he'll never be the same again, something to that effect. And I thought, that is so right on. That is such a true statement. Because my drinking was never the same. I kept hearing you say, but it quit working. And for me, I kept thinking, gosh, I really feel sorry for you because it kept working for me. Until this time. And there was a reality about what it really was that I had never seen before. And so I returned to Minneapolis and I had the attitude, I've learned my lesson, and I stepped my meetings up from 1 a month to 1 a week. That sounded like a lot of meetings to me when all you got to do is just not drink and go to those meetings. That's kind of what I'm feeling about here. I don't know about those sponsor things and I'm not interested in, there's those steps, and I know I had to take 5 of them to get out of that treatment center, but then it was like the cliff fell off, what's 6 through 12? And so I'm just not really doing anything but not drinking. And finally, on a Friday, I got a letter in the mail 5 weeks later with 1 joint in it. And like any still uncommitted alcoholic, I decided to keep it because I thought, you just never know when you might need something like this. It's here, just convenience. It was so amazing. I needed it the next day. I don't even like pot, and yet it was there. And that was a great lesson for me because in our home, we choose not to have any alcohol. We choose not to have any social drugs for any potential visitors that might come over. We just don't. Because I know myself, if it is there, who knows over the last 28 years how many times wrong set of emotions with the right set of circumstances and bam, you've got fire. You've got somebody drunk. I just don't need to set that situation in a convenience level for me. That's just for me. But what happened is on the 7th of February, I smoked that joint, and that's the last thing to this moment that I have taken mood altering. It was never my plan to get sober. It was never anything. I had no big plans it was just going to be one more secret. That's all. That's why there was no big rip-roaring, well, let it go. I've already wrecked my sobriety. Might as well just go all the way. It was just going to be one more secret. But I knew. And I had acquired this thing called a conscience that I could not live with. And that night, the 7th of February, I surrendered for the very first time ever. I felt like that flat line on a heart monitor. I was 18 years old, and I didn't realize what my age was anymore because I had surrendered. It didn't matter what the age was. It didn't matter where I had been or where I had not been. I was so sick of running my life. I was sick of having no use, no purpose. At 18, I didn't come in here because I was physically beat up at 18. I'm snapping back real quick from whatever I'm doing. But emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, it had been empty for a long time. And instead of all the objections and all the loser and all the I can't make it and the yeah buts and I'm too young, all that stuff, none of that came into my mind. What came into my mind was something from outside of me, and this is why I know it wasn't my decision to get sober, because I never would have come up with this. It was the thought that, those people in AA seem to know what to do. And on February the 8th, I went back to the meeting I had been going to on a weekly basis, and I went to the old timers with the most important question I've ever asked in my life. What do you do to stay sober? End of question. And there are no conditions back here behind the curtain. They knew for the first time I meant business. And they said, well, one day at a time, we don't take the first drink or anything else that affects us from the neck up, and we have a sobriety date. We go to a lot of meetings and we get a home group. We get somebody that we can talk to, and that's a sponsor. We take these steps and we develop a relationship with the God of our own understanding. While we're taking these steps, we learn some principles to apply in all of our affairs. Oh, those traditions, Deb, those aren't just for the group. Those are for you to learn how to apply in your own personal life. And we try to carry this message and to be of service. And that's the bar they set for me, and that's the bar that's still raised. That's what I try to aspire to every day, to the best of my ability. Now, I've always had a home group. I've always had a sponsor. I've always had a sobriety date, an honest one since that day. February the 8th, 1976 is when my journey began in earnest. So those first 4 years, just shy of my fourth birthday, I was in Minneapolis, and I was a member of the 12 and 12 group, and I was active. I was in a meeting every night. My activities were going on. I was active with a sponsor. I went from just reading the book, which meant nothing. It was kind of like almost like taking a sleeping pill at times, to learning how to study the book, because for the first couple of years I just didn't have any retention on anything. I knew this book was important, but nothing's happening or sticking or sinking in. And she helped me to go from reading it to studying it. It has become a part of my life. I was just shy of that fourth birthday. I moved to Atlanta. I'd always loved the South, and I went down there. I had a job opportunity, and I got that sponsor locked in, got that home group locked in, took that 4-year cake, and there was like this click in my head that said, you know what, you're 4 now. You know something. Now, I have no idea where that came from, but it was not God-inspired. But I listened. That's the problem, is that I listened to it. And I decided to go from, 7 meetings a week's an awful lot of meetings, to trim that down to about 2 or 3. And when I trim, I usually go that shorter route to 2. And what happened, it was like taking a big block of wood, but one day at a time I was shaving that down. And so because it's very incremental, you don't really see the scrapping. And you just kind of blow that away. It's a little dust down there. But after 2 years of that, you end up from this block of wood to a small round ball, and you wonder why you're so restless, irritable, and discontent. You're 6 years sober, and you're going to 2 meetings a week. And you're crazy. You're doing everything they ask you to do. I mean, that's how I saw it in my mind. I'm going to weeks, I have meetings, I have a sponsor, I'm working with others. I mean, I'm not actively working with anybody. Nobody's asking me. And, of course, I failed to look at anything that all the things that I had stopped doing. I had stopped getting into my home group meeting an hour earlier. Now I'm getting there over the next 2 years, I'm getting there 5 minutes before the meeting, walk in, give a coffee, and sit down. That's all you have time for in 5 minutes. Because I know you can't come in late, right? And instead of being one of the last people to leave the meeting, it's amen, shake, shake, and you're looking at taillights. I'm out of there. I'm not actively sponsoring anybody because I haven't had time to say hello to anybody who's new. I'm not sticking around. I have a commitment, but it's something during the meeting, so I don't have to get there early or stay late. And if you could have heard my head probably after that second meeting and heard something like, well, got that done for the week. You see, I was being a visitor to my sobriety, and that does not work for me. I need to be in the middle of the room, active participant in my sobriety for this to work. And so at 6 years of sobriety, I started looking out here for people, places, and things to make me happy. Now, in my words, that really becomes men, money, and mansions are going to make me happy. And I start looking around out here, and by golly, 3 weeks later on a Friday, I met a little fella. And golly, he had so many of the qualities I was looking for. In fact, he'd even been sober for 13 years, hadn't been to a meeting in 3 years, but no problem. I'm going to hip him. I learned perseverance in this program. I'm going to put it to work right now. And I persevered to make this little fella my fella. And, of course, he had no interest in getting in AA. He had no interest in doing what I had in plans for him. And what the light switch of insanity got flipped on inside of me. Over the next few months, the only thing that saved me from not taking that first drink is I never quit going to meetings. I knew in the way to my core, the minute I make the first excuse to not go to the meeting, there'll be guilt and debate and conflict. But there won't be for my second excuse, and I was too terrified to be drunk. So I'd go to meetings. I didn't want to go. I could care less if you lived or died. It didn't matter to me. But I went because I was too afraid, selfish and self-centered, to get drunk. But I couldn't wait to get out of there, and I'd head off to where he was again. And after 3 months of this whirlwind romance, of which I was the only one involved, God, I hate those kind. This little fella got married to somebody else, and so I let him go, and this other little fella, he came along into my life, and he had very much the qualifications. In a way, we did this dance of death, and 3 months later, I watched him go down the aisle with somebody else. And at 6 years and 9 months of sobriety, mercifully, I had entertained God with my useless ideas long enough, and it just came crashing down. I came crashing down one more time, and I recommitted myself to Alcoholics Anonymous, because drinking is not an option of comfort anymore, and I knew that. And so I recommitted, and I took these steps again as if I had never taken them before. They felt new, they felt invigorating, and I was back on track, and my life just went whoosh. And about 8.5 years sober, I'm just a twinge of restless, irritable, and discontent. And I'm in my home group meeting, and thank God, I have been trained to do that. And I'm thinking those things, and the speaker that night was talking about that very subject, being sober a long time, feeling that way. He said, I realized I was trying to live today on last year's program. And I thought, that's exactly what I've been doing. I took those steps, and I made that last amend on that list to my stepmother, which was the most difficult, and yet the one that gave me the final freedom. And I'm still sitting here patting myself on the back. I'm still living off the glory of feeling good from a year ago. This is the day that counts. This is the prayer and meditation for today. This is the not drinking and no drugs for today. This is the try to be the decent human being I can be today. Yesterday launched me into today. But this is the day I must be present in, and He totally gave me a new way to look at that one day at a time.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
And so a few years later, I'd get married and I'd move to Southern California, and again, that was a brand new way of life, another group to get used to. And you know, I've moved several times in my sobriety, as I've said, and every new group, you know, they didn't do it the way I was raised, and it was for me to make my adaptation. You know, I learned that from the very first move, is that it's for me to adapt. Isn't it amazing that they stayed sober before I got here, and they will probably stay sober long after I'm gone, you know, and this is, I have to remember how tiny and unimportant I really am. I'm just one among many. And so I go to this meeting now, and after 5 years and 9 months of marriage, that would come to an end. And I just felt like a fool and a chump and so embarrassed and like an idiot and just such a loser. But one day at a time, I continued to go to my meetings, and I knew all of the things. The experience of loss, whether it be a marriage or the death of a loved one or any kind of thing, you know, it's very difficult, and there be that emotional flow and process and stages you go through. So it's not that the subject matter that I want to share a minute with you. It's how you help me get through that. Because I've watched so many of you walk through bigger hurdles than I will ever know in a lifetime. You did it with dignity, grace, and sobriety. You gave me the courage by your example to do the same thing, to walk tall, to be quiet, to be with and work with this God of my understanding, to do what I'm supposed to do here. I knew that, you know, part of me said, you know, jeepers. You know, I'm working full time. I'm active in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm sponsoring the most women I had ever worked with before. I mean, shouldn't there be some kind of a armor or something? And in a way, yes, there is, but no, there isn't. No, there isn't, because life is going to happen. It doesn't mean that if I'm doing all the right things, difficult things or challenges or adjustments won't come into my life. But there is a set of armor that I don't have to take a drink over something like that happens. And so it was very important for me to keep my life as status quo as possible, because these are the props that are going to keep me upright. If I start kicking away sponsees, or if I start dropping off meetings, I'm going to fall. And I don't want to do that. So you showed me how to walk through that. And on Thanksgiving of that year, it'd been about 5 months, I guess, at that time, and I'd been doing fine. But that Thanksgiving day came around, and things were changing for me. The tsunami of self-pity was moving in. I mean, I could like see that thing on the horizon, you know, and I'm standing up in that house and leaning up against the wall, and I just feel that self-pity coming, and the tears get a little weary, a little teary-eyed, then they start dripping, and then they start crying, and then the sobbing, and then just losing it. And the whole of loneliness had never, ever, drunk or sober, ever been that huge, ever been that painful, ever been that devastating to me. It hit that one day. And the next thing I know, I've just kind of slid down the wall, and I'm sitting on the floor, and I'm thinking, okay, you can let it rip for about another half hour, but then you've got to get your shower and your hair fixed and your makeup on and dressed, because you have a greeting commitment at the meeting tonight. You see, you've never given me a pass because I had puffy eyes or didn't feel like, you know, greeting or smiling. I've always been taught and know for a fact, just get the body there, all that other stuff will catch up. You don't have to be spiritually fit to greet. It will make you spiritually fit. It will bring you up to that level. So I'm so grateful that those kinds of things block out all the reasons why I'm too vain to go because I have puffy eyes. And so I went beyond that, but I had to take a look at my own inventory in that marriage and to realize that I know zero about being a partner. I know zero about how to be in a marriage. I am so selfish, self-centered, and self-absorbed, way too independent to be a partner. And I needed to, take my own inventory and take action on that. And in 2000, 8 years later, when I would meet Kent, I had something to bring to the table. And we met, and a year later, we would get married. And while y'all were going on this weekend, we were getting married in Long Beach in 2001. And a year later, for our first anniversary, we're back in Atlanta. And we'd been to the Skyline group the night before on Friday night. And I said my prayers that morning, just like I do every morning. Please help me stay sober. And we went to a luncheon that day with some non-alcoholic friends. And there was, we sat down to lunch, and there was this pre-poured goblet of something. And I assumed I knew what it was, but I just verified. And he said, yes, it's some blah, blah, blah wine. And I went, oh. And I pushed that wine forward out of my reach. What I did not know is that would activate for me a 6-month physical craving to be drunk. Not a mental obsession, but a physical craving I have never, ever experienced. We finished that lunch, and I'm like feeling, you know how when you fall or something, you're kind of just dizzied or dazed. I'm thinking, gosh, I can't believe that bothered me. Oh, well. But what would happen is that it kept circling around. It never left. It just circled heavy and weak and heavy and weak and heavy and weak. And I thought, well, why is this lasting? I'm talking to my husband about it. I'm talking to my sponsor about it. I'm taking a fine-tooth comb in my inventory. What am I doing wrong? Why won't this go away? What's happening here? And for a long time I thought it was the physical obsession, the mental obsession. What I realized in looking back, and I've looked at this over and over again, is for the first time, my mind was protecting me. My mind wasn't trying to finagle a near beer or a champagne light or I can get away with this. It wasn't. It was saying, run past the liquor aisle in Safeway. Just go, because if you go slow, you may turn out of your will. And I didn't understand that. I've never had that. And I would say, I'm not doing anything inappropriate. I mean, again, I am sponsoring the most people I had ever worked with. I'm not doing anything inappropriate. I'm not lying, stealing, cheating. I'm not doing anything that I'm not chipping on meetings, showing up late, flaking on commitments, all the things that if I had done any of those things, I could say, hey, you can't be doing this. You can't skip on. I'm not doing any of those things. Why then won't it go away? And I didn't understand it. And during those 6 months, I went from varying things of praying to God, asking, begging, demanding, pleading, crying, helpless. I don't understand. I stepped up my meetings. I, did everything a little bit more that I knew to do. In addition to what had been going on, I just didn't understand why it wouldn't go away. I don't know what activated it. I mean, was it that little glass of wine? I love movies. I mean, I love movies. And I would be in a movie, and if there was a drinking scene, I would totally lose 5 minutes of dialogue focused on what they were drinking. That has never happened to me before. I'm 26 plus years sober when this is going on. I found if I was doing everything right, this would never happen. So what am I doing wrong? And one morning, it was a Wednesday morning, I was in a meeting that morning. When it was over, I left in absolute terror that I would drink against my will. That I would almost like be out of physical control of myself. And I got on my phone and I called my sponsor on my way home. And I am in tears. I am terrified. And just the way she said it, I've heard the words before, but the way she said it made the difference. She said, honey, what we have is the disease of alcoholism, not alcoholism. And I realized that I am an alcoholic, and I will think about drinking. I will want to have drinking going on. That just because I am doing all the right things, seemingly anyway, doesn't mean that this won't pass. But what it does mean is that I don't have to take the action. Regardless of how powerful it is, I do not have to submit to the action. Because I've had a lot of people say to me, boy, I had that happen too, but I drank. And my questions are, were you going to meetings? No. Were you working with the sponsor? No. Oh, You know, I mean, well, obviously that made the path so much easier. But I don't want to drink. This is the best life I have ever had. And so instead of saying, what am I doing wrong, I could turn that thing over and say, thank God I was doing everything I was doing. What if I had been chipping on meetings? What if I had sort of sloughed off on prayer? What if I had started picking and choosing and screening my phone calls? For me, that's dangerous. For me, that begins a real fast skid. So I can't do that. So when I tell you I'm really happy to be here and be sober, I really have a different feel about that. Not that I haven't always felt that way, but it has a fresh meaning to me. You know, I've done these things for over 28 years. The journey continues. Again, how I look at a day at a time and staying sober a day at a time looks different and feels different to me. And I know that you can stay sober one day at a time in this current day, no matter what's going on in your life. This is the only one I need to take care of and do my best today in. In step 3, we say, you know, take away my difficulties so that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. And I hope that my difficulties that I have had in sobriety, you can see how God has been the source of power for me. I don't have the power. That He's taken away these difficulties by my bearing witness or telling my story. And that it is a powerful way of life. He has all power, that He has love for every one of us in this room. And this is the most incredible way of life that I've ever thought could be possible, and that I get to live it a day at a time. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious. Do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. and I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.